Okay, time to talk about Dinars. So as you know, next week we have Dinars coming, and a lot of people have been saying, hey, what should I get for Dinars next week on my Guardian Druid? Now, there is really one clear standout, but let's make a video about it because it's a very important decision. As you know, we are World of Warcraft players, and the only thing that matters is our power, our item level, and our gear. We're also going to get 6 item levels on everything, so next week is a massive power upgrade. But we need to take a few things into consideration. Some people have been saying, oh, I should get Tome of Light's Devotion. I don't think this is a good idea. I think that the number one trinket you want in every circumstance is the Pacemaker trinket from Floodgate. This is the one. We go to Dungeon Journal right here. We go to Floodgate. This is the trinket that you are probably getting, okay? You probably want the Improvised Sephorian Pacemaker. Caveat to this entire video, because I'm going to rant about this for a bit. We're going to talk gear, we're going to get into the nuance, we're going to nerd out about this, okay? Caveat is, all the trinkets are kind of close, and the truth is you can sort of just get what you want, but many people don't really understand or the nuance of getting a defensive trinket, because a lot of people I think are thinking the first thing I'm going to buy is a ritual mud trinket, which is a good trinket. This is a great trinket. There's nothing wrong with having this. But my thing is that 7 or 11 or 15 item levels on a trinket like this doesn't really do that much. When I hit this trinket in a key, it is most likely before a big tank buster. Like first boss of Floodgate, I'm going to hit this trinket. I know I'm living it. An extra 1 million on this absorb is kind of not that good. Like, it's actually not that helpful. And an extra tiny little bit of verse, we're talking about the difference between like 0.5 to 1% verse when you actually take this to higher item level. You can just farm this trinket on you can just farm this from regular Mythic Plus and get it at 665. So I really think that if you spend your first dinar on this trinket, I don't think it's a good idea. What you really want is more primary stat. Now, you are not upgrading this trinket for the crit, because again, you upgrade this to max, you're not getting that much more crit from it. You're getting a stat stick. People underestimate how valuable it is to have primary stat on a trinket like this. Okay? Any trinket slot that has primary stat, because anybody who thinks, oh, you know what? I should get Tome of Light's Devotion. This trinket is kind of bait. Is it a tiny bit more damage? Maybe, if you play it perfectly. But there are some keys where it's not. Hey, Carly. You chilling? Sorry, Carly's getting a little feisty. She's like, wow, you're getting so passionate about this. Correct. I'm getting passionate because we have important gear choices to make. This is my Guardian Druid right now. I'm 674. My stats are whatever. I've been messing around with them. Doesn't really matter. I have 2 trinkets. These are the only 2 mythic trinkets that I have. The only reason I'm playing Signet is because it is the only mythic trinket I have. This is a stat stick. The actual on-use effect is not... It's okay as a DPS option. I would be playing Pacemaker if I had it. I'm going to immediately replace this trinket with Pacemaker, most likely. In a lot of dungeons, I'm still choosing a defensive option. But the item level difference on the defensive option almost doesn't matter, because again, when I proc this absorb, I need to know I'm going to live that hit. I'm going to live that hit whether this trinket is 665 or the higher item level, which is going to be next week with the turbo boost and all the nonsense that's coming in the middle of the season. What I'm more interested in is having an extra bit of primary stat. So for example, this trinket at 678 gives me 5,188 agility. That is what I'm after. I want the agility to go up with the actual effect that I want. But the effect from trinkets is pretty minor because they're all relatively close to each other. For example, you can play Azerokks Beating Heart. It's another trinket from keys. You can go to the mother load and you can buy this trinket. This trinket's not bad. It's pretty all right. And again, now we're looking for, again, just that number to go up. You could, honestly, again, if you're watching this video, it's because you care about your gears, because you want to min-max your character. Understandable. Trust me, just buy the Pacemaker. Pacemaker works in every situation. If we're talking about from keys, the caveat is obviously, if you're a Mythic Raider and you have access to Mythic Raid trinkets, you can consider Gallywix items. You can consider your Mythic Best in Slot as a weapon. You can consider, if you're going to have access to that weapon, by the way, the Mythic version, not the Heroic version, because item level is very important on a weapon. It's more important than on a weapon than anything else. If you're going to have access to this weapon on Mythic, then you really want to consider a different trinket choice. But most likely, you don't have access to this on Mythic. I don't Mythic Raid. Or you have Mugsy, then you can consider a few different options, yeah? This is more for if you want to actually consider the balance option, but let's assume you're playing Guardian. I think that Mythic Bomb Suit is a pretty decent choice, but a lot of people have been figuring out that in actuality in a key, you would rather not be playing Bomb Suit, and you would rather be playing the Ritual Mud Trinket. So the honest choice is, if you had access to Mythic Gallywix loot, you're choosing between the Mythic Best in Slot and the Jaster's Diamond. Those are your two actual choices. Honestly, Jaster's Diamond, pretty good effect on an extra ring. If you have it on Mythic, take it. But if you don't have it on Mythic, spending your first dinar on this on Heroic, 13 item level difference actually starts to matter when you're considering this ring. Probably not worth it. There's a world where maybe on your second or third dinar, if you really want this ring, you could get it. But I think that the absolute best use is an item you're going to be using forever. So I really think that the actual best use of this trinket is not Priory, but it's Floodgate. Yeah? It's going to be this improvised Sephorium Pacemaker. If I had this trinket at max item level, well, I would use a trinket in every key. Single target is good. AoE, it's good. Let's take a log. I don't know. These are some random keys I did today on stream. They're nothing too impressive. It's a Rookery 15, I believe. We can take a look at how much my Tome trinket did. My Tome did this. This is obviously just a messing around key. I think we wiped on the second. I was like, I soloed the second boss for the last few minutes. We had some deaths there. We had some whoopsie daisies, and now we're here. So anyways, 5% overall. Not bad. Not bad. Pretty good. And single target's obviously a little higher. So if you go to like the last boss or whatever, again, wasn't really paying attention that much. Was just doing whatever. 10% single target. Not bad. First boss around the same. Yeah, it's okay. Let's look at Theater of Pain. Theater of Pain's a little single target. Again, we take a look at this dungeon here. This is my Tome overall. Is doing 6% in Theater of Pain, which is probably the best dungeon for a trinket like this. Now, keep in mind, Tome passively gives 3% crit. So you got to add about 2 or 3% to this. So let's say Tome is doing 7 to 8% of my damage. Here's the problem. Tome is borrowed power. As we get more item level, as we get more gear, Tome kind of falls off a little bit. And especially as you get more optimized with your rotation and your routes, Tome is not necessarily a very good overall trinket. The main reason is not whether or not it competes on damage, because maybe if you play it perfectly in some dungeons where you can really game the offensive mode, because you don't want it on defensive mode at all, you can get like, maybe it's 1% more damage. But you also lose, hey, Carly, almost done with the video. And then we can go cuddle with your brother. But for now, we're going to focus on the trinket choices. You can game this, but the truth is, you lose overall, potentially. And even if you don't lose overall, you lose defensive value. 3% crit from this is the same as playing Pacemaker, and you lose all the primary stat. Primary stat is a big deal. Primary stat affects your armor from Iron Fur, which means that overall damage is going to affect your Thorns of Iron. It's going to affect your Thrash, your Moonfire, your Mangle. Everything gets affected by primary stat, which also means that defensively, you're going to get affected by Alun's favorite healing a little bit more and a few other things. So primary stat's kind of massive. People don't realize how important primary stat is, I think. There are some tanks that scale higher with it. Bear is actually not one of them, but still. Not having primary stat on this trinket, it's kind of sim bait. You look at details and you're like, damn, a trinket doing that much is awesome. Pacemaker is going to equal it, if not do a little bit more. And even if it doesn't, you gain the defensive value. So Pacemaker has both offensive and a little bit more defensive value for sure than Tome. Tome is also an annoying trinket where you have to game. There are also some dungeons where you just have massive pulls and you're going to be sitting in the defensive stance a lot, so this is going to lose value. I might not even play Tome. There's a world where I decide that, again, the 5,188 agility from Signet with an on-use effect for pure damage, let's say I want to go for pure damage, there's a world where I choose to play this trinket over my Tome. Like if I got my Pacemaker, there's a world where I take Tome off and play Pacemaker here instead. So my first purchase is going to be Pacemaker. I think it works in every single circumstance. I think that if you waste your dinar, you're going to feel bad. All right, looks like Carly's done. If Carly's done, that also means I'm done, because I think I've yapped enough. Let's go over the dinar list one more time, because this will be pretty much the only video I make on it. Your first dinar, most likely Bis Trinket. I would not spend it on a defensive trinket. I don't think I'd spend it on Mud, and Bomb Suit is only if you really want it on Heroic, I suppose, but I actually think Mud might be better. Mud is a shorter cooldown in a lot of situations when you actually want it, like first boss of Floodgate. So when it comes down to it, I would choose something like Pacemaker. I think Pacemaker is a very good staple trinket. I think you can't go wrong with this decision making. Ultimately, it is up to you, and just remember, have fun with the game. For most people, you're probably watching this. You're not pushing plus 18s and plus 19s on live. Maybe next week with our giga inflated item level and stuff. But it's probably okay for you to just play whatever you want. So if you really are like, yeah, I know the Pacemaker might be better, but I really want Bomb Suit, just get Bomb Suit. We have 3 Dinars. They're coming every few weeks. We don't have to wait that long. Just get Bomb Suit then. Or if you're like, yeah, I know, Pacemaker might be better, but I really love playing Tome and Ritual Mode, then just get one of those. It's okay. Sims are, they're wild, man. They always assume that everybody needs the absolute best optimization. The best optimization you're going to get is from your rotation, not gear, and from your route, and from your comp. People forget that all the time. Last note I'm going to make on this video, okay? Do you know how important your comp is for your damage in a key? Like, let's say you play a Fury Warrior, Outlaw Rogue, and people who specialize a little bit more single target and have less uncapped AoE, you're going to do much more as a tank. You know that? Because you're going to be in an AoE pull for longer. I do the first pull of Cinderbrew with a Warrior. I'm happy. I get Warrior buff, plus I get to pad, because that pull's going to last longer, so it's not going to die as fast. If I do that first pull with a Marksman Hunter and a DK and a Rep Pally, I feel bad, because it's going to die fast enough and I don't get any group buffs. Your comp matters a lot for what your damage looks like in a key. Also, how long did you spend on a boss? Because bosses are where you lose most of your damage. So how long did you spend on the boss? Is a really good question. So if the boss fight takes 5 minutes, you still time the key, you're going to have less damage overall than if the boss fight took 4 minutes. So there's a lot of factors to consider. Carly seems like she's done, and so am I. So that's my rant. Let me know what you're getting with your first dinar. I think that Pacemaker is going to be my first choice. I'm very excited. I've actually never seen this trinket drop in all the keys I've done this season, as hilarious as it sounds. Literally never seen Pacemaker once. So I'm pretty excited. That's what I'm doing. Let me know what you're doing, and I hope you like this video. Bye.